Hare Krishna to all devotees here.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Pranams Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Pranams Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji. I think I have done go live. I will make Suramai Mataji as co-host.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Pranams Mataji. Pranams.
Pranams.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna
Pranams
Mataji.
Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji,
I
Dandavat
make you
Pranam.
host Mataji. Just 1 second.
You can make me co-host also. Dhanya Rameshwari Mataji. It's not. I think we can start. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jyaudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtaki. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, chapter 13, verse number 11. Okay, whoever wants to read the verse can raise your hands, please. I'm not audible. Okay, Madhumai Krishna Kanta Mataji. Go ahead, please.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachitcha Shita Atapavata Varsha. Pratikriyam Kartum Anishaste. Kvachinmitho Vipanan Yaccha Kinchit. Vidvesham Ruchyati Uta Vitta Shatyat. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anjali Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Kvachitcha Shita Atapavata Varsha Pratikriyam Kartum Anisha Aste Kvachit Mitha Vipanana Yata Cha Kinchita Vidvesham Cha Chata Atyucha Vitta Shayat. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you.
Shayat. Hare Krishna.
Suramya Madhavi, Suramay Madhavi Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Suramay,
Kvachit
right? Or Suramya?
Suramya.
Suramya,
Hare
sorry.
Krishna. Kvachitcha Shitata Varsha Pratikriyam Kartumanisha Aste Kvachinmitho Vipanan Yaccha Kinchit Vidvesham Richaittita Vitta Shatyat. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Venkat Narasimha Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Kvachitcha Chetata Pavata Varsha Pratikriyam Kartumani Saste Kvachinnido Vipanam Yaccha Kvijit Vidvesham Richachyuta Vitta Sakshat. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you. Prema Priya Jayashri Mataji.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachitcha Sitaptavata Varsha Pratikriyam Kartum Anisha Aste Kvachinmitho Vipanan Yaccha Kinchit Vidvesham Ruchyati Uta Vitta Satyat. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Thank you. Shubha Rao Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachitcha Sita Tapavata Varsha Pratikriyam Kartumanisha Aste Kvachinmitho Vipanam Yaccha Kinchit Vidvesham Ruchyuta Vitta Satyat. Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you. Prafulla Mataji. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Mataji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Kvachitcha Sita Tapavata Varsa Pratikriyam Kartumiram प्रतिक्रियां कर्तुम् अनिशा अस्ते क्वचिन्मिथो विपणनय च किञ्चित् विदेशमुच्यति उच्यत उत वीत साक्ष्यात्. हरे कृष्ण माताजी. थैंक यू.
Usha Bhatt Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी, प्रणाम माताजी. ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय. क्वचिच्च शीतातपवार्तवर्ष प्रतिक्रियां कर्तुमनीश आस्ते. क्वचिन्मितो विपणन् यच्च किञ्चिद् विद्वेषमुच्युत इत्तशास्त्यात्. थैंक यू माताजी. हरे कृष्ण.
Revati Rangani Mataji.
हरे कृष्ण माताजी, प्रणाम माताजी.
Hare Krishna.
क्वचिद्वशितात पवता वर्षो प्रतिक्रियां कर्तुम् मनीषे आस्ते. क्वचिन्नमतो विपणन् यच्च किच्चितः विद्वेषमृच्छत युत विद्दशटायात्. हरे कृष्ण माताजी. थैंक यू वेरी वेरी मच.
क्वचिच्च सित्तातपवातवर्ष प्रतिक्रियां कर्तुम् अनीश आस्ते. क्वचिन्मिथो विपणं यच्च किञ्चित् विद्वेषमृच्छति उत वित्तसाध्यात्. Kvachit, sometimes, cha also sheet atapa vata varsha, of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, and excessive rainfall. Pratikriyam, counter action kartum, to do. Anishaha, being unable, aste, remains in misery. Kvachit, sometimes, mithaha, one another. Vipanam, selling. Yacha, whatever. Kinchit, a little bit. Vidvesham, mutual enmity. Rachati, obtain. Uta, it is so said. Vita Sathyat, because of cheating on another merely for money. Translation by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada, Srila Ki Jai. Sometimes a living entity is busy counteracting the natural disturbances of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, excessive rainfall, and so forth. When he is unable to do so, he becomes very unhappy. Sometimes he is cheated in business transactions one after another. In this way, by cheating, living entities create enmity among themselves. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. This is an example of the struggle for existence, the attempt to counteract the onslaught of material nature. This creates enmity in society, and consequently society is filled with envious people. One person is envious of another, and this is the way of material world. The Krishna consciousness movement aims at creating an atmosphere of non-envy. Of course, it is not possible for everyone to become Krishna conscious, but the Krishna consciousness movement can create an exemplary society where there is no envy. This is an example of the struggle for existence, the attempt to counteract the onslaught of material nature. Om Gyan Timirandasya Gyananjan Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. He Krishna Karna Sindhu Deen Bandhu Jagat Pate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Saptakanchan Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Prishpanuste Devi Pranamami Hari Priyai. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakti Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaurvani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatayane. Sometimes a living entity is busy counteracting the natural disturbances of freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, excessive rainfall, and so forth. When he is unable to do so, he becomes very unhappy. Sometimes he is cheated in business transactions one after another. In this way, by cheating, living entities create enmity among themselves. Okay, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 5th canto, the creative impetus, chapter number 13. What is the name?
Further talks between King Ravana and Jadavardhana.
Further talks between King Rahugana and Maharaj Jadbharat. And Maharaj Jadbharat is explaining that in a very allegorical manner that how difficult this material world is. It's like a forest where a living entity gets lost. A living entity is compared to a merchant, and the material world is compared to a forest. And then there are different difficulties that one has to encounter for trying to live in this forest. And then we have studied the difficulty which comes from its own desire to be in a family, where the family members are compared to some of the animals, where they extract the money. And then also the desire to stay happy in the family is so strong that one wants to build very big palatial buildings and have a lot of comforts, but it is compared to Gandharva Pura. So which is like a palace in the sky. There is no palace in the sky. And then it is also compared that sometimes the person is unable to bear the cost of extensive yagyas that are required to stay in the family life. It becomes very morose and actually vents its anger on the family members like children and wife. And also sometimes it goes to people who are rich people, but who can't really help. So this way, the life gets very complicated again and again. Then yesterday we studied that just to get a flickering happiness of sexual interaction, but what are the two adjectives? What were the two adjectives in? What were two adjectives which I was
Little
emphasizing?
insignificant. Little insignificant.
Little happiness and insignificant. And there are two adjectives. Little insignificant sex enjoyment. Yeah, thank you. So little and insignificant, both. It's not a huge thing, and it is not significant in the, if you look at the life from the aspect of the Shastras, the human form of life from the aspect of the Shastras. So Prabhupada gave an antidote to it, that in Krishna Consciousness Society, we ban or forbid the illicit relationships. Now, this is like Adi Bhautik, Adi Devik, and Adhyatmik. So this is like Adi Devik kind of a suffering. Freezing cold, scorching heat, strong wind, excessive rainfall, and so forth. You know, freezing cold, I don't think in India there is a experience. Yes, it gets really cold nowadays. I went there in December last year. But this is nowhere like what is cold in Western countries. Nowhere. In Western countries, if the heat system is broken in the house, everybody will literally get frozen. And the tap water will get frozen and there will be nothing. And the pipes will expand, and sometimes in some houses, the expanded pipelines in the house burst. And then there is one problem after another problem after another problem because of so much cold outside and no heat inside. So the whole house has to be heated, not just in India. We have room heater, right? Yes, there's room heater. I'm just trying to give a perspective of what this freezing cold is. But in Western countries, we have the whole house which is heated, because it's not a luxury. Huh? Don't assume that this is, oh, this place is so nice that the whole house gets heated. No, this is the problem. If you don't heat it, then the pipelines in the walls and rooftops or ceilings will get frozen. The water will get frozen and they will burst. So it looks like, oh, this is so nice, but it is not. It becomes like a kind of a, what do you say? It becomes kind of like you have to carry this burden of bearing the cold, and at the same time have all these elaborate arrangements for a little amount of time that you spend inside the house. Scorching heat, like who else can have a better experience than India? Humid heat, the water is very hot. There's nothing much that can be done. Strong winds, excessive rainfall, we can understand, right? We cannot function. If the weather conditions are like this, can somebody have a very functional life? Can they, go out for a japa walk or harinam, or they can have very functional life, or they can actually have good health?
No, Mataji.
It is not possible, right? We are dependent on the Mother Nature to give us circumstances which actually help us to maintain the body. But if the circumstances are taken away by the higher authorities, then we are very busy in just counteracting the natural disturbances. We are very busy. So where is the time? to become Krishna conscious. Here is the time. One of my son's friend's house, he was telling me one time, is the house is built under the ground. You know how our houses is above the ground, right? Their house is under the ground. So basically the ground is like the roof of their house. I said, why they have built the house under the ground? Said, because just in case there is a nuclear warfare, then they have a place to hide in their house. So the house was built on a fear or on the basis of anxiety. You see, one may praise somebody doing like that, but what is the real cause of doing the thing we are doing is what Krishna consciousness teaches us. So there is no happiness anywhere. We are adjusting. It's an adjustment. And this adjustment is also very temporary. And we have to go on adjusting unless and until we get the real picture that where am I going to go next. Okay. So it makes one very unhappy. It is a reality. You know, there is a disease in medicine called SAD. Do you know what the SAD is? Some doctor sitting here, SAD. Do you know what that is? It's a disease diagnosis, a diagnosis called SAD, SAD. So it's, okay, I'll tell. So the SAD is seasonal affective disorder, which is like, okay, people who live in Western countries in winter time, the sunset is around 3 p.m., 4 p.m. The nights are very long because the sun rises around 7:38 in the morning and then it only stays out for this much time. And rest of the time it is dark. So people go in for diseases like depression or loneliness or anxiety, fearfulness. So it is very related to the cycle of the sun, right? Seasonal affective disorder. But when the season changes, then the affect changes. So we are dependent on the mother nature to help us sustain our body. That is why it is very important to be respectful of the mother nature. And the other thing is that when we are trying to counteract, we need resources, all these problems of Adi Devik. And sometimes to get these resources or any way to fulfill our material desires, there is cheating. Like there is cheating in the business transaction one after another. And in this cheating business, we create enviousness or enmity between ourselves. So basically, the key word here is that create enmity amongst themselves. So it's a creation. We create it. Naturally, the soul does not have this. Okay, tomorrow's verse we'll talk more about envy, but here it's the take-home point for me, but at least is that this is not something which is natural to the soul. It's created. And then when we create an enviousness, then Prabhupada says this is the way. One person is envious of another, and this is the way of the material world. Okay, as long as we are in the material world, as long as we have desire to be in the material world, I'm not trying to judge anybody or myself, but just need to know it's like a very obvious thing that I have envy in my heart. Okay, I have envy, that's why I'm here. If there is no envy, then we will be with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Krishna consciousness movement can create an exemplary society where there is no envy. Why? Because nobody is trying to be an enjoyer here. Everybody is trying to make Krishna enjoy. Nobody is trying to enjoy independent of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is a nice life. That is a nice life. I interact with youngsters and their mentality is so filled with envy. We think that we are making progress in our day-to-day living or the educational system, but I'm telling you that if you compare even 20 years back, there's a lot of like this mode of ignorance qualities which are coming out because everyone is able to show off their life in a way that they want to be perceived to the world, which is not true. I mean, it's not true the way we pose on ourselves on the outside world is not the way we really are. But then the side effect, the detrimental effect is that we actually are creating and contributing to the environment of enmity. So a Krishna conscious person will not have a problem in being authentic, because the trust and the power and empowerment is coming from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is no need to lie. There is no need to show off, because Krishna is the enjoyer. Okay, we bring our talents on table because Krishna says, I have an ability in a man, right? We bring our talents on the table to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There is one Mataji in Gita Nagari. She visits very often, and then she stays for 4 months, 6 months. So she's very good in just stitching. Okay, she's like very good. So I see her, fixing Radha Damodar's old dresses. And then I see her sewing, like taking measurements and sewing. And one time in the temple pujari room, I and her were sitting. I had bought the backdrop for the deity, so but we had to put the lining on the back. And me and her were sitting in the night, and we were just like threading it, like we were just like stitching the backdrop to the lining to the backdrop. And suddenly I had a realization, it was so nice, that with every stitch we are making on this cloth, we are actually cutting our attachment to this material world. This is Krishna consciousness, where we actually feel that I'm moving towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and these feelings are an impediment, it's an enemy to the mind, right? It's an enemy to the mind. And then if we don't overcome the obstacle, then we stay grounded to the material world. And there is no need for it, because it's created. This is the created enemy. It's not an eternal enemy. So we'll talk about different things tomorrow, hopefully, about what is envy and how does it poison our Krishna consciousness, and what are the things that we can do to not entangle ourselves, at least consciously, and pray if there's any subconscious and envy remaining for anyone. Okay, so understand that these are real things. The material world portrays itself with in a very sketchy manner in some places on the planet. At least on Earth, we can talk about. Or even in this canto, when we'll discuss the Jambu Dvipa Island and so many islands, we're going to discuss so much geography in this canto later on. There is description of the islands which are very, very beautiful. Okay. But at least at the end of the day, it is all a struggle. Like I gave example of freezing coal. People think Western countries, centrally heated houses and buildings is like amazing. But this is the reason why the central heat is needed. It's a need. Otherwise, there's going to be the whole house will collapse. And that'll be a bigger thing. And nobody can do anything in the winter season because it's so bad. Nobody can be outside and fix things. So scorching heat, look at the deserts, or strong wind, excessive rainfall. So all these things are real. We are dependent on the Mother Nature. We are dependent on the Supreme Personality of Godhead to minimize these natural disturbances to us so that we can utilize our time for the Krishna consciousness. Again, understand that how we are creating enmity amongst ourselves by cheating. The example given here is business transaction. Cheating, right? Government is cheating by lowering high taxes on the people. Then the shopkeepers are cheating. To pay those taxes, they increase the price of the commodities. So Prabhupada explains that actually it is the government which is a cheating place, not the common man. The cheating comes from the government, and the common man has to pay the cost. And then the government officials fill their pockets. So it's all a very complicated thing, because this is, Prabhupada writes, this is the way of material world. One person is envious of another in the material world, and this is the way of material world. Questions, reflections, realizations, corrections. Audible?
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji.
Okay.